Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. It's travel day, Ray. I'm packing the car. I stopped packing and washing clothes. Actually, there's clothes going, but I stopped everything because we have an amazing guest. This might be our most high profile guest. For older Caniacs, the newer folks, you may or may not recognize this game, but I feel very confident you're going to love this guy. And we're going to talk Stadium Series today. But before we get into that, how are you doing, Ray? Because you got the Stadium Series gear on, you got the Whalers hat on. You look good.
Yeah,
you look better than me. I've been sick.
No, well, yeah, and I need you to get better because the Stadium Series is going to be it's going to be a very busy, wear down. We're going to be a very, very busy in Raleigh, all over the place. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm on pins and needles, actually, because you're leaving now, right? And it's like, man, I wish I could be leaving now. My clock, I fly in on Wednesday. I leave Calgary here at noon. I cannot wait to get down there. There's going to be so much excitement, so many people to see in person, and it's going to be great.
And I got a bunch more for you too.
To it. Oh,
I'm looking forward to everything but like the 14-hour drive, which is it's not that bad. We're not leaving till like 4:00 today, so we're gonna drive overnight and the Super Bowl's on. So I think traffic will be fairly light. I think we can kind of zip it down, and hopefully we don't speed heavily, but hopefully the police are also watching the game and we can just kind of be on down a little bit.
No one's
paying attention.
Interstate, so yeah, exactly. The one lucky part for me, it's an all-day trip, but for some reason, I guess because maybe my wife loves me and doesn't want to torture me, she didn't put me in the cattle car part of the plane. I'm flying business class.
Oh. Ooh la la.
Yeah,
fancy.
Very fancy, very comfortable. That's what I need. So I don't know what I did right. I need to keep doing it. I wish someone would just tell me so I can keep getting this kind of benefit. It's going to be great. I'm so looking forward to it. And when you announced our guest today, I was excited about this too, because I was aware of him, even here in Calgary, in Alberta. I wasn't in Calgary at the time when our guest was, doing what he does so very, very well. I saw his name pop up so many times and so many stories, and it was like great. It was great. And when you announced that, you told me we were having him, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome.
I put it on Twitter, awesome. But I'm hoping people forgot. I couldn't keep it contained.
Yeah. Well, Brad, and you're the one that landed our guest. You get to do the introduction because it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
I am very pleased to welcome to the show one of the first people I tuned into for Canes information. The first person I think in the triangle from a professional standpoint who understood and got hockey, could talk hockey straight from the get-go. He was on 850 The Buzz at the time. He had a show, The Sports Bar, I believe the name was. I looked for clips and could not find any, but for older Caniacs, you will recognize the name. For newer Caniacs, you will enjoy this episode. Mike Solarte is here. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the program and talking Stadium Series. We're going to have a good time.
Man, oh man! With that intro, I thought for sure I'm sorry to disappoint those folks that were waiting for like Ray Ferraro or Wayne Gretzky or Al Samuelson or somebody like that. No, it's just little old me. But gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. This truly is fun. I love doing stuff like this, and I know we talked a little bit before we got going. Like we may talk for about an hour. We can go 3 hours if you want. I don't care. Whatever. I mean, I am all about talking about the NHL, talking about the Hurricanes, talking about the game. I've been around it my whole life. So thank you so much for having me.
I should have told Ray we're going to start recording at like 4:15 once we're on the road, because then I'd have like 13 straight hours available.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you're driving down today. Just make sure you get through DC cleanly. That's the That's the hiccup.
Oh, I've learned. We go through Terrytown, New York. Maybe we'll stop by and say hi to Brian Pesci, although he'll be in town on Tuesday for the game because it's the dad's trip. And then and then outside DC. So we're actually going to Western North Carolina first. So instead of going down 95, we're actually cutting across Pennsylvania, cutting down through Virginia.
Smart.
I don't normally find traffic on that route on a good day. And it's the quickest way to get to a Bojangles from Boston. There's a Bojangles in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. For those of you traveling through Pennsylvania, it is hundreds of miles from the next closest Bojangles, but it is there.
That's wise. And you're gonna have your fill of that too when you get here. So enjoy that.
Mike, as of yesterday, I've lost 45 pounds.
Oh, nice.
Very excited.
Attaboy.
So I'm going to eat Bojangles, but I'm going once and not 7 times. Right? I'm going to go to Cookout once and not 7 times in 2 weeks.
It's a special occasion. It's a special occasion. Knock yourself out. You get back on the bike when you get back home. It's fine.
Barbecue nachos was not a thing when I was still in Raleigh, and I might have to try barbecue nachos.
Yeah, you just might.
We want to hear from you, right? So you're a Chicago guy, as I recall, born and raised.
Yep. 23 years.
Came down to Raleigh in like 95, 96. We were talking about right before the hurricanes came down, and I remember. I'll let you start. So you kind of get us going, and then we'll go from there.
All right. So we can just start 2 years before that. Got into the business in 93. Worked 2 seasons in Lubbock, Texas, 2 years in Lubbock, Texas. I'm talking like I'm a hockey player. Worked 2 years in Lubbock, Texas, and as far removed from any ice rink, there wasn't an ice rink within hundreds of miles of where I was in Lubbock. And so the only skating I did, I actually bought a pair of roller inlines and actually started playing with a bunch of guys down there just to keep playing. We were the Lubbock Knights, using the old St. Louis Blues colors with the that red stripe, that lower portion of the sweater, that red, whoever put those things together, I'm a total Jersey weirdo. If you look at my Twitter profile page, that's my actual closet. So at Mike Solarte, go there and look at that now. And when you come back, you're like, oh my God, this guy's got a problem. But I was there for 2 years, and then went to Raleigh in 1995, and was lucky enough that Raleigh, in fact, had a hockey team, the Raleigh IceCaps in the ECHL, and was able to meet with those guys and actually skated a couple of practices with them when they were shorts and bodies, and got to know a bunch of the players, and then the Hurricanes relocation became a thing, and then the Hurricanes came down, and Paul Maurice was the head coach, and I heard stories too, and I've never gotten these confirmed, but I heard stories because when I was at the time that the Whalers were thinking about moving around and moving to Raleigh, I was told, and I can't confirm this, but Whalers brass were driving around Raleigh, and my radio show was on, and I was talking about hockey. Could it be viable in North Carolina? And I had no idea these guys are in town. Now, again, I can't confirm these stories. I can't. But I mean, I did 2 hours that day, and it was just about what pro sport would best fit in Raleigh. And I said, honestly, hockey's the best fit because you've got an opportunity to draw from not just Raleigh, but Durham and Cary and the surrounding towns there. And there's a couple ice rinks, it's like they got a couple ice rinks here, and you already got the minor league team here that's showing that they can make it work. And so you obviously need a new building, but if you get that, I said you get that, and you put a winning product on the ice, and you'll have a team that is viable in the South. You'll have a team that can play in a non-traditional market. And I was told that Whalers brass heard all that. And as they were driving around, there were okay, ooh, wow. And again, that's what I was told. I don't know that that's true. The only people that were in the car allegedly at the time, Peter Karmanos and other higher ups in the organization. And again, that's the story that I was told.
I choose to believe.
I'm a
believer.
If it's true, then it's true and great. But if it's not true and someone's pulling my leg, well, okay, I got had. But anyway, so I was was in Raleigh for from 95 until 2002, and then I came down to Charlotte in 2002 to start what was then called News 14 Carolina, and we're now Spectrum News 1. We've had a couple of name changes in between, but overall it's been, we started off doing just Charlotte sports, and then in 2004 we combined with our Raleigh counterparts, because Raleigh actually launched before we did. And we combined with our Raleigh counterparts and became a statewide news network. So I just basically say it's, CNN for North Carolina. So we're across the state, and have been doing our 10 o'clock or 10:30 or 11 o'clock show. It's changed over the course of time. It's called Sports Night. Now it's called the Chevrolet Sports Night. Thank you to the good folks at Chevrolet. Sorry for the plug on your podcast, but it is what it is. Okay. And
maybe they'll cut us a check for a couple of bucks.
Maybe that'd be right. And
I could use like Goodberry's money, Chevy, if you're listening. Like $7 would be plenty. I've had a concrete in like 8 years.
So have been there since 2002. And so I was actually working with this station in 2006 when the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup. And when I moved from Raleigh to Charlotte in 2002 was when the Hurricanes played the Stanley Cup final against Detroit. And I was actually I was between radio and TV at the time, between 850 The Buzz and TV down in Charlotte. But station in Toronto actually hooked up with me to freelance for them in the playoffs with Carolina. And so I was doing phoners throughout the playoffs. And the only series I didn't work was the Toronto series, because I was in the process of moving. So I was doing phone-ins for the first round, and second round, but the conference final I missed. And then the Toronto series, I did 3 of the 4 series, because I at my age I forget the order. But the Stanley Cup final was, you remember the multi-overtime game that
I was there.
They lost, yeah. And so I was doing phoners and calling them and saying, okay, so we're through 1 overtime. What do you want me to do? I'll just hang out. If they score, call in. Okay. Overtime finishes. We're still here, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I've been around the game my whole life and covering this team since they moved, and since before they moved, in fact. So that's kind of my backstory.
So real quick, you touched on the IceCaps, who and 2 questions. One, is there a better hockey name than Lyle Wildgoose, who's still my favorite non-NHL player?
There's not a better dude than Lyle Wildgoose. I actually covered him when I was working in Raleigh. And between you had Lyle Wildgoose, you had in fact, I'm actually going to see Goose next week. We're doing a special leading into the Stadium Series game, and we're going to do a Forefathers of Hockey in Raleigh piece with Lyle Wildgoose, Jimmy Powers, and Brad Malahy. Those are the goalie for that team. There's a bunch of guys that still live in Raleigh that were on that team. And so we're going to do a sit down at Jimmy's restaurant. He owns a place called Piper's Tavern that he started 20 some years ago. And so we're going to meet at his place. So we're going to just do a sit down. And, we were all in our younger years then. And so we're just going to kind of sit down and reflect on how the IceCaps, they were thriving. That was a franchise that was new to the Triangle.
They were great.
They were founded in 91, and they only left Raleigh because the Hurricanes came in, and they was like, well, we got too many roosters in the hen house here, so we got to get out. And they went to Augusta, Georgia for a couple seasons before they folded. But yeah, we're going to sit down and talk to some of those guys. They used to play at Dorton Arena, which is right there on the fairgrounds, and man, what a great little barn that was.
It was.
The worst part about Dorton Arena was practice days, because all the walls are glass, so it's like a huge greenhouse. So there were some spots on the ice during the morning practices that never really dried, because the light would come through and that light would travel, and then when the sun got over and the rink was finally all in shade, it was okay. So practicing 10 o'clock until 11:30 was always an adventure, because there was always going to be one spot on the ice that just kind of kept moving. It stayed sunny. And
I can remember, during, Ray, you might not know that during the first 10 minutes of a lot of games, there might be thick fog, until the players get moving and like some air gets circulating.
Yeah, it was an older building that was never designed for hockey. It's kind of like you took the Saddle Dome for you being in Calgary. It's kind of like you took the Saddle Dome and threw it in a dryer and shrunk it down. It's the same. It's the same kind of design. Yeah, I'm serious. When you get a chance, just do a Google on Dorton Arena and take a look at it. You'll be like, "Oh my God, that is the Saddle Dome, but it's smaller." It is.
So our listeners have heard this, Mike. I'm going to tell it. I'm going to try and be brief. I'm a very loquacious person. Last Christmas on Twitter, I love the IceCaps. I worked for EMS there in Raleigh. A bunch of guys who were EMTs and paramedics. We had season tickets. Sat first 2 rows. Lyle was my guy. I decided I want a Lyle Wildgoose jersey, and I haven't been able to find one for like a decade. I reached out on Twitter, and I forget his son's name. It's gonna bother me, but I get this reply from somebody who's Twitter users something Wildgoose, and is like, and I reached out and it's Lyle's son. Lyle gave me a practice jersey from his closet. He had Jimmy and the boys sign it at Piper's Tavern. I have the pictures just because I reached out on Twitter and was like, he was my favorite player and I can't find a jersey. And Lyle, if you tell Lyle when you see him, say, Brad, the guy to whom you gave the jersey last Christmas, greatly appreciates it and says hi, that would be awesome. Because I could not believe that he went that far for me. It was amazing.
I will do that. That is absolutely 100% who Lyle is. He was a great dude to cover and hang out with and talk to. And I remember his last season with the IceCaps. They were on the fringe of making the playoffs. They were, they needed to beat Charlotte, and they needed a Wheeling Nailers loss to get in. And so it was the last day of the season. I actually drove from Raleigh to Charlotte to cover the game. They won the game. They beat the Checkers. I want to say it was 5-2 or 5-3. And so they had done everything they could do. And but so I'm getting interviews with the coach, Kirk Kleinendorf, and some of the players. And I go into they brought a couple of players, met me outside the locker room to talk. And I was like, I got to talk to Goose, because he was wearing a C at the time. And I was like, and Goose was still in the room in his uniform, because he didn't want the season to end. He was afraid to get undressed because he didn't know what's going to be. He was a competitor. He wanted to keep playing. He knew it was going to be his season and his career was going to be over, but he didn't want to get out of the uniform. And I totally got that. And he was very emotional, but he did grant me an interview, and he was fighting through the emotions. But Wheeling did lose. Checkers got in, and then. But as the weirdest stroke of luck would have it, the play-by-play voice for the IceCaps, Andy McDonald, had to go to his minor league baseball assignment in Portland, Maine. So they didn't have a radio guy for the first round of the playoffs against Tallahassee. So the GM asked me to do it. So I called the play-by-play on the radio for the 4-game series that they got beat by Tallahassee 3-1. But
wow. What an experience, though.
Oh, it was great. And I'm a play-by-play guy at heart. So when Pete Bach asked me, I said, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to pay me. Just cover my room and feed me on the trip. And he's like, okay, cool. I mean, seriously, I didn't ask for a dime. I just wanted to do it because, I love those guys. I love being around the team. I love the game. And so, I mean, there were several conversations I had with Pete when they were shorthanded bodies. I'm like, I got my gear. I can sign a 10-day. I can play for you. Just give you a couple shifts a night so the regulars can get a breather. He's like, no, let's not quite go that far, because he saw me skate practice. So all right, so it's a smart move on Pete to put me in the booth as opposed to on the ice.
And you said it earlier, but the IceCaps for people who were around Raleigh at the time, I mean, guys like Lyle and Jimmy and those, they definitely set the stage. Like, people who were not into hockey became hockey fans, not because of the Canes, but because of the IceCaps. And then the Canes have continued that tradition. So in my mind, everything that the Canes have built sits on an IceCaps foundation. Mm-hmm. And I can't say enough good things about that. I'm still looking for that game-worn Wildgoose jersey. It's going to cost me dearly when I find one, if I find one. But one day it will be mine. So, but I do have his practice jersey in my closet. I will post pictures whenever I post this. That, like I said, what an unbelievable thing for them to do. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I did research, Mike, which I do not do. I'm not a research. I work in academia, so I don't do research in my off time. But you won an AP award for covering the IceCaps, did you not?
We did.
AP? Yeah.
Yeah, we won AP Best Feature. It was actually a feature, believe it or not, on their trainer DeLon Cummings, just kind of a day in the life of DC, and showed him running around taking care of the water bottles and getting the practice pucks out and stitching a jersey and working on a skate and all the stuff that he did. And Mully was the goalie in that on that team. And so we show the day that, and he's saying, yeah, I got to get this, and he's carrying jerseys around, and I got to get that, and I got to, all of that stuff. And then we had the strangest thing happen is that Mully, and the reason I bring him up is that Mully was in the net, but someone took a shot and he made the save, and he couldn't find the puck because the puck had actually gone into his pad. Like it got wedged between the cuff, the outer cuff of the pad, and the flat front portion of the pad.
Holy cow.
So I mean, and now in the ECHL, you weren't talking about guys that had 17 sets of gear, and they could, I could just switch out pads or switch out masks or whatever. What you had is what you had. And so that had to be fixed. And so DC finds out about it. And so he goes into his toolbox and he gets out a pair of pliers, and he goes in there and he grabs the thing. And we were there, luckily, with the camera, and you see him wrestle this thing out of there. And it's got great sound of it because you can hear it go, coming out of the pad. And so he pops it out, and everybody's like, "Hey!" And so we took the camera and went up to Mully. He's like, "I just had a baby," So, so it was one of those fortunate moments that we were able to capture on film. And so Mully then comes back to end the piece after showing DC running everywhere around the building. Mully skates over to the bench, grabs an empty water bottle, squeezes it, nothing comes out, throws it on the ice, says, "Where's DC?" And our last shot of the piece is DC on the trainer's table having a nap. And so, and true story, DeLon begged us not to use that shot because he's like, if Kurt sees me laying down on a job, the head coach, I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm like, no, we'll smooth it over. And Kurt was cool with it. It was okay. But so that was the story that we won the AP Best Feature Award for.
So, Mike, I've got to ask you, Spectrum One. Before we get to the Stadium Series, I really need to ask, and see, you've been here since the beginning, essentially,
since the dawn of time.
Yes. Exactly. And my question to you is, perhaps you can give us a little perspective about how hockey is developed. I mean, Spectrum One focuses, Charlotte and Raleigh, right? And of course, football is king. Where has hockey found itself as far as the growth? Is it like NFL is such a juggernaut, right? So it's hard to say that the NHL would ever get more play than the NFL. There's just no way to it. As much as we love the game and we think it's better than the NFL, that's just not the case. How do you categorize where hockey is now and how it developed over time?
Well, that's a really good question. The way that where hockey has succeeded has been through success. When you have a good product on the ice, fans will come out and watch it. Okay, and the Hurricanes of late have been putting on a great product on the ice, and it's translated into success and coverage. And this is what I said when the team first moved. I said, because not only are they dealing with the NFL in North Carolina, they're dealing with the ACC, and the ACC is king in this state, and it always has been, and it always will be. No matter what. It's fine. No matter what the Panthers do, they're still playing second fiddle across the state to the ACC because of the 4 schools in that conference in this state. So they were already fighting an uphill battle. And I said it when they first relocated. I said, you can get, if you don't have a winner on the ice, you're going to be playing in front of an empty building, because in those months, in the hockey season, the months of hockey season, that's also ACC basketball season. And trust me, fans will pay more attention to Duke, North Carolina, and NC State than they will the Hurricanes if they're bad. So the key for this franchise is to become a winner quickly and maintain interest in what they're doing, because fans, as you know, will follow winners. Now, true fans will ride or die with their team through the good and the bad, and that's what look, there are a lot of great Caniacs out there who remember the dismal days, who remember the non-playoff years, and there were a lot of them. But for the most part, the general overall, and throwing out the diehard fans, if you're just a casual fan, you're not going to pay attention if the team's 10 games under 500 and out of the playoffs. So that's where Carolina has thrived under Rod Brindamore, is that they're a perennial contender. They're always in the mix. They're always a playoff team, and that's been great for the franchise. But yeah, I think it's in terms of where it slots. I mean, you have the ACC that rules the roost across the state, and remarkably, it stayed that way even with all the college relocation and conference jumping that you've seen schools make. But the Hurricanes kind of set the bar for the state. But there are minor league teams. I mean, you have in Fayetteville, you have the Fayetteville Marksmen in the Southern Professional League, and they're a pretty good franchise for their league and what they do. You've got the Carolina Thunderbirds in Winston-Salem, which is a federal hockey league team, and then the Checkers are still alive and kicking, but they're now an American Hockey League team affiliated with the Florida Panthers, and they were affiliated with Carolina, but that affiliation switched pandemic time. I forget the year, but they were with Carolina. Then they went to the Panthers. And that's why they're not still married is another podcast subject all its own. Trust me, I would love to, because to me, that's
maybe a summertime podcast.
It's a missed opportunity is what it is for the Hurricanes, in my opinion, but nonetheless. I understand it also takes two parties to dance, and I get all that. So, so you still have minor league teams around the state, but the Hurricanes really set the tone. And when the Hurricanes are good, everybody around the state sees that. And if you've got a minor league team in your backyard, you might want to say, "Oh, I'll go check out these guys then," because it's infectious. It's hockey success is contagious, and so when the Hurricanes are good, things in hockey across the state are good. When they're struggling, then people may tune out the Hurricanes and the diehards in those specific markets with the minor league teams. They'll still go out and check out their teams, but they'll be doing it with a more watchful eye on what that specific team is doing.
See, one of the things that I've noticed, and in Calgary, outside in, I've always been very frustrated with the lack of respect that the Hurricanes have gained for themselves in the league. That when you want to talk about how well they're doing and stuff, by and large, what the analysts and everyone says is, yeah, they're a great team. They work hard every night. They're they're really, really good. And it's almost like an also ran type thing where they'll spend so much time. Yeah, a little bit. And they talk about these other teams that are doing not nearly as well as the Hurricanes are, but they like talking about these other players and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if hopefully that's not the vibe, but looking from the outside in North Carolina, is the excitement there? Is the respect there? Is the excitement, I think, is really what I'm looking at here. Like the excitement, and people want to talk about it. It is a big topic for you guys.
It is a big topic for us on a statewide level. Okay, for our purposes, and it's hard for me to speak for other stations across the state. I know that the folks in Raleigh are gung-ho about it because that's their team. Across the state, it's not as big like here in Charlotte. It's not as big here in Charlotte because Raleigh is so far away. It's 2.5 hours by car. It's not really that far, but it's not. Raleigh and Charlotte have this weird rivalry, that one wants to be, the other, and it's, to me, it's silly. And once upon a time working in Raleigh, I actually knew about that. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go to Charlotte. And I've been here 20 years.
It's kind of that your reference like that. It sounds like a little bit like Calgary and Edmonton. Yeah. It's although maybe not as heated and not as much hate, but you wouldn't get a whole lot of talk about the Oilers here in Calgary unless they're playing each other. Right. And that's really it, right? Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, and the hockey rivalry did exist between the IceCaps and the Checkers when they were in the same league, and they'd play each other a couple times a year. But in terms of the talk, to get to your question, in terms of how many people are talking about it in Charlotte as opposed to Raleigh, I mean, the number is probably 10-1 more in Raleigh than it is in Charlotte, and it's understandable because in Charlotte we're dealing with just a dreadful Charlotte Hornets team this year. The Carolina Panthers are going through coaches like you and I go through underwear. And so there's a lot going on that isn't Hurricanes hockey. Now, the sports fans in North Carolina, and that's my wife, she's waving behind the camera there. She didn't really wave. That's all audio, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. We're just doing this so we can see our faces. So there's the hand.
Hi, Ms. Solarte.
Hi.
But like I say, because of the fact that the Hurricanes are viewed as a Raleigh team, and even in Raleigh, the Panthers are viewed as a Charlotte team. So it's kind of the same thing. There are football fans in Raleigh that care about the Panthers, and there are hockey fans in Charlotte that care about the Hurricanes. But the diehard bases stay pretty much within the confines of the market, that sort of thing. So
right.
There are fans across the state, but when it comes to the game itself, getting the respect and the excitement level, most of that excitement is centered in the triangle between Raleigh, Durham, Cary, Fayetteville, surround the surrounding towns around the triangle. So that's and it makes sense. I mean, those are the people that are the closest geographically. They're going to spend their money directly with the team, that sort of thing. They're the ones that get to see the product in person a lot more than those that are outside. I know there are true diehard fans in Greensboro because they were there when the team first started playing in the NHL. They played in Greensboro until PNC, the Raleigh Entertainment and Sports Arena, or the RESA, as Chuck Caton used to call it, the RESA, was being built. So the diehards are all across the state, but predominantly the excitement lives in the zip code of the team.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Ray. So I grew up north of Charlotte, and we're going to see my parents who still live there. And that's exactly what I expect to see. Is in the last couple of years, my dad has said coverage has gotten better. He'll see things in the Charlotte News and Observer. He'll see more things on Spectrum News 1, but it's not.
Well, he's always seeing things on my channel. Let me tell you that.
But
the thing about the Hurricanes, the best thing for the Hurricanes in spreading their name across the state was me moving to Charlotte, because I keep putting them on. And I kept putting them on when we were just a Charlotte channel. It's like, oh, no, by the way, that NHL team up in Raleigh, you got to pay attention to those guys.
They're pretty good,
Look
right?
This,
especially 2002, 2006.
Yeah, exactly. So they've known. The Spectrum News audience has known all about the Carolina Hurricanes since I've been on board.
I tell my boss all the time, because she's a Bruins season ticket holder, I said, comparing Charlotte to Raleigh, the fact that they're in the same state is irrelevant. That's like saying Boston and Hartford are the same city. It's like, no, they're about equidistant from Charlotte and Raleigh. The fact that they're in the same state is the only reason, because she was in Charlotte for like 5 years. And she's like, we never heard about the Hurricanes. I'm like, yeah, because you're 150 miles away. Like, we're 120 miles away. Of course you didn't. So.
Yeah.
So Mike, I have two more questions before we get to the Stadium Series. And Brad, I'm sorry. I know that this is going to make things a little bit longer, but hear me out. Number one, I need to ask you. You were there at the beginning when Hartford moved in and stuff. One of the things that you heard from all of the players who were with the Hurricanes at that time, the difficulties with the travels to Greensboro and stuff like that. I wanted to get your side of that. And then I'll give you the second question now, and you can knock them out both in a row. As far as memories go, covering the Hurricanes for you, there's got to be some special moments. The people who listen to us have heard me say before, and we know I've got 20 years in broadcasting. One of the memories that I had, not necessarily the funnest, but it was, I am lucky enough to have been threatened to be punched in the nose by Dave the Tiger Williams when I was doing an interview with him. That's my claim to fame in that. And it was a funny story. Maybe I'll share the full story at some point, but I wanted to get your sense here. Stanley Cup final, 2002, 2006, you being in the industry, there's got to be some great memories too. So let's go with the first one, Greensboro, and then come to that.
The travel, the travel and playing in Greensboro, that was certainly a challenge from a professional standpoint for us. Okay, which is to say nothing of what it was like for the players. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the players had it way worse, because you have to be at your best, and these guys are hopping in their cars for a morning drive of at least 90 minutes. to get to work and get stretched and get ready to play and play at a high level and be the best you can be and do all the things that you're supposed to do as a professional. They had it a lot worse. From my standpoint, from the television standpoint, it really wasn't that hard because we knew we couldn't staff all the games. We didn't have the technology then that we do now, where you can send somebody out there with a microwave backpack and they can go and get you interviews, and then they flip a switch and suddenly they're live because of the technology right there. Yeah. Back then it was, you needed a satellite truck, you needed a truck operator, you needed the satellite time, you needed to go all the things that you needed to do. And then you had to, go do it. So you had to go get your interviews, get out to the truck, get it cut, get it fed, get in front of the camera and stand there and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we didn't do a lot of that when they were playing in Greensboro, but we did, record all the games and show all the highlights and that sort of thing. We went to practices that thankfully were in Raleigh. So it made covering that team very difficult for the first couple of seasons because they were so far away on game days. But we all knew that the end game was going to be so much better because the building was going to go up and it was going to be right here in town and it was going to be outstanding. So it was just a small price to pay for what was to come. So that's, that was the logistical headache side of life with the Hurricanes on the road in Greensboro. Memories. God.
I gotta tell you, I'm very jealous already. I can only imagine.
We could always bring Mike back if he's willing, because
1,000%
hours and hours of story. We could do that like in the off season or something. If there's one, I'd love to hear it.
There are so many memories, and there are a lot of them that I you have to remember. This is the late '90s, and I'm 53 now, so I was a much younger lad back then. And there are a lot of stories that I'm going to take with me to the grave. I'm just going to put that.
Well done.
Those I may share next week at the Stadium Series if you and I, the three of us, actually get together and crack a beverage.
I'll be there.
I would love to.
But one of my favorite memories, and it's going to sound like a throwaway, but Arturs Irbe was the goaltender for a bunch of years, and Archie was notorious for never letting the equipment staff work on his gear. Never. And look, Skip Cunningham and Bobby Gorman and Wally Tatamir were three beauties, and only Bobby remains. We lost Wally, sadly, and Skip retired, but Bobby is still there, and God love Bobby. He's a beauty. But he would never let the guys touch his gear. If he had pad repairs that needed to be done, he did them. He had his own sewing kit, would be doing stuff in the room. So one day after
pillows
practice
that he had, wow.
Yeah, and he, trust me, he restuffed those things like nobody's business. I think he actually probably raised deer in his backyard so that way he could slaughter them, get the hair, and then stuff.
Yeah.
But so one day after practice, and this is in the new building in Raleigh, PNC now. We're in there getting interviews, and I was just, we got done shooting and recording and everything. And so we're done, and I'm just sitting there hanging out with Archie, and I sit down next to him while he's sawing away in his pads. And I'm just watching this guy work on him very meticulously, like, making sure every stitch is perfect and making sure that, it's just the way it's got to be, just the way. And I'm talking to him and I'm asking him, so, what are you doing here? And what's the point of, what are you trying to accomplish with this repair? And we're just having a conversation. And I was working at the radio station at the time. And so as we're doing this conversation, he stops and he looks at me. He says, you able to get international music on your show? And I said, I'm sure we can. This is at the time of LimeWire and all the virus loading things that were out there at the time. Sure. And we had LimeWire at the station. He said, I'm trying to find a song, Party Girl. It was big in Russia. Big song. I said, Party Girl. I said, I said, do you remember who the artist was? I said, I can probably look it up. I don't remember. Okay. So I go back to the station, I do this search, and I find, and I play it, and I'm like, okay, I've never heard this, so this might be what he's talking about. And it was the only entry that I found. So I download it. When I downloaded a couple of things that populated in the search, and I put all of it on a CD, and I put Party Girl at the front end and the back end. So it was there at both ends of the stuff in the middle. And so the next day I showed up to practice because they had a couple of days between home games. And I said, hey, I burned this for you. Let me know. And he goes, oh my God, what is it? I said, I think it's the song you want. So he goes and he puts it in the CD player in the room and he hits play and he just starts, that's the one. That's the one. He got all excited. I said, cool. I said, you got 9 or 10 songs on here. And I said, I put Party Girl at the back end of it too. So when those other ones end, and he was so thrilled and so excited about this. And I just grooved on the fact, the point of the story is that it was one of those examples where a guy that I looked up to and respected for his job and what he could do was not a god. He was not a deity. He was not someone to be fawned over. He was just an ordinary dude looking for a tune that he couldn't hear anymore because he didn't live in the country that he grew up hearing it in.
Yeah.
He was just a regular guy. He was just a guy that happened to, face 95-mile-an-hour slap shots for a living, and it was so cool to just kind of hang with him. And so after the CD thing, like we were always talking, we were always talking in the room, and he would be the one to initiate the conversations. Like, after post-game home games, we get our sound, get a tap, hey, Arch, what's going on? Oh, do you see that? We start talking about the game, or
that's amazing.
I mean, just one of those guys that I'm very lucky to have crossed paths with. And yeah, so just one of those days that stood out to me because of the fact that he was just so down to earth, so regular, but I mean, the workmanship on his pads. I mean, they looked like you couldn't tell on TV because they never really did a zoom in on his pads, but his pads looked like Frankenstein with all the stitch work and all the things that he did. But everything was perfect. I mean, it was meticulous. It was, that I remember anyway, it was because he took such great care and pride in making what he had work. Didn't ask for new pads because when he was in Latvia, he couldn't get new pads.
Yeah.
You have this, make it work. Okay. And that work ethic stuck with him. And it was really cool to see because he was really, really good at it. He was really good.
I had a friend one time, real quick, Ray, who was kind of newish to hockey, fell in love with Archie. As no disrespect to Cam Ward, Archie's my guy. I just loved him. But he was, back before like collecting game worn equipment. It's really become a big thing now. But back, you used to be able to kind of get stuff because nobody really wanted it. It was kind of,
there wasn't a market.
It was to be discarded. And he asked about a set of Archie's pads, and I was like, if you could find a set of Archie's pads available, because the whole time he was with the Canes, I'm betting he didn't have more than 2 sets total.
I think he had the same set of
might have just been the one, right?
Might have been the same set of cohos he kept working on. Yeah.
I said, if you ever find them, no matter the price, you buy them. Yeah. Because you will never get a second opportunity.
Yeah. And the thing is that you buy them and then you take them to the proper authorities because they went on sale because someone stole them from Archie.
Stole them.
Yeah. I mean, that's because that's pretty much the only way you're going to get your hands on stuff like that.
Yeah. I have one of his game used sticks, and it might be my favorite game used in my collection.
Sticks,
just because it's Archie, right? Yeah. I mean, sticks come and go. It's
like pads, gloves, helmet, mask. You find those, they probably got this. They got there in an unsavory way.
For newer Caniacs, Archie reminds me a lot of Teravainen in terms of mannerisms. I mean, one's Finnish, one's Latvian, but very reserved, kind of a quirky sense of humor, super friendly when he was feeling comfortable. But he was just that guy, and he would get laser focused, like you said, Mike. And it was, watching him and watching Kochetkov now reminds me a lot of Archie and Hasek and those guys. Yeah. And I absolutely love to see it.
Kuchi's got a little more flair to him. I mean, I don't think that you'd have seen Archie get in a stick swinging incident with Brad Marchand, but because Archie, well, that's the thing is Archie was the same size as Marchand. He probably would just dropped and tried to drop him.
Yeah,
that was the kind of guy. That was the kind of guy that Archie was too. Is like he was fiery competitor and he wasn't going to take any guff from anybody. So you came into his crease, you were going to get whacked. And so Archie was a mild-mannered guy off the ice, but I would hate to be the person to cross him. He would come at you.
Mike, your description, it's funny. Yeah, you love to have those great professional relationships, but hearing you describe it, it sounds like you and Archie are friends.
Well,
I mean, honestly,
Yeah, it felt that way. It felt that way. I haven't seen him in a long time. But I try to keep track of where these guys move around to. Last I saw, he was the goalie coach for the Capitals. Now, I'm not sure if he's still there, if he's moved on. He may have gone back to Riga. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I would hope that if our paths crossed, he might say, wait a minute, I know this guy. He may not remember my name. It's like, and then he might figure it out. But I never put stock into that. I mean, if guys remember these things, great. If they don't, I get it too, because I mean they meet so many people. So but yeah, we had when I was covering the team and he was playing, we had a really good relationship. When we were always very friendly. And I'm sure that the CD didn't hurt things, but it was one of those things that he knew who I was and was willing to talk whenever I asked for an interview or anything like that. So just yeah, I mean, we had a really good relationship when I was in Raleigh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're still friends with guys like Shane Willis, Eric Cole, Bates Battaglia. Bates Battaglia. I've known him since he was 16. When he's growing up playing hockey at Fenwick High School in Raleigh, or in Chicago rather. I used to watch him play as a high schooler before he went to Lake State and played, before he went, before he turned pro. So I've known Batesy and his brother Anthony for a long time. Anthony was playing in the ECHL when the Checkers were in the ECHL. He was playing with, was it Florida? I think the Florida Everblades. So they're playing in Charlotte, and I got him scoring a goal. Dad was in the stands, and I'd met him a couple of times when I was in Raleigh with Bates, covering the Hurricanes. So when I see Dad, I said, "Hey, Pops, how are you?" And he looks at me and his eyes, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working down here now." I said, "I got his goal. I'll send it to you." So I put it on a tape and I sent it off to him. He was thrilled to get that. So yeah, but Batesy owns Lucky Bees up there in Raleigh, the place that if you've not been, when you guys are in town, you got to check out. And so hopefully I'll run into him this week coming up. But so yeah, I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of those guys that played. I've skated in a couple of alumni games, and so being on the ice with guys like Sean Hill and Tim Brent and Bates and Willie, Stu Grimson, Steve Smith when he was here, that was a thrill. Cam Ward's going to be playing in the alumni game a week from Monday, I should say, the Monday after the Stadium Series game. So I mean, it's going to be next week is going to be a great event for the franchise. I'm so glad it's actually happening this year as opposed to when it was previously scheduled. Because Definitely. Because this being the 25th season of Hurricanes hockey, this feels like the appropriate celebration of that anniversary. Having the outdoor game, win or lose or draw against the Caps, to be able to have 51,000+ of their closest fans and friends, in the building to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
I agree with you. At first, I was really upset. And the more I thought about it, I said, no, having it during the 25th anniversary is a great idea. Yeah. Just like for the 10th anniversary, you got the original black third jerseys. I remember, so the Hurricanes have done really well kind of making a big deal out of these. I love how far they've gone with, we're not just getting the Stadium Series game. There are events on that ice practically all week. There's the alumni game you mentioned, UNC versus the Ice Pack is going to play there. They're going to do an STM skate on the ice thing. So I love the fact that they're taking the opportunity to say, let's really go all out. Let's make this something that even if you're not a huge hockey person, or even if you don't have tickets to the Stadium Series game, you can come to Raleigh, you can come to the Fan Fest, you can come to the alumni game, or come to see, the UNC NC State game and really make an event of it, which is, I think, maybe going to be this might be the biggest, other than the Stanley Cup finals, this might be the biggest event in the history of the club. The only big event I've ever missed was the All-Star Weekend that Raleigh hosted, so I can't really compare that. I watched it from up here, but I feel like they've grown as an organization and understand, kind of where their fans lie and how they can help pull people in, because it's been really slow to get moving. People, with the jerseys not being released until really late, and the ticket was kind of fiasco, and some of that's league driven. I know the Hurricanes will say. Some of that, I think they have to kind of own up on. But now that we're getting close, it feels like it's a snowball rolling downhill, and we're really starting to get the momentum where, I'm super excited. All the people I know, even the people who aren't Hurricanes fans, have started to kind of feel that momentum on social media building, and they're starting to be a little more interested. The fact it's against the Caps wouldn't have been my first choice. I really wanted New Jersey, because I always have felt like since that first playoff series against New Jersey, they've kind of been that team that we've gone back and forth with. But as Brock McGinn did to the Capitals in 2019, I'm good with that. The Capitals are one of those teams who comes in that you kind of love to hate, versus maybe some of the Rangers fans from yesterday who you kind of hate to hate, because they're they're in Hurricanes red 80 games a year. But it's the Pittsburgh and the Rangers are two fan bases that feel like they're just over the top. At least the Capitals group now is small enough, I feel like, that you can keep them in check. But I can remember, especially in those 2000 years, where the Capitals would send buses down with fans. Their fan club, I think, would come down on a couple of buses and they would take over entire section.
It makes sense for the Caps to be the opponent for the Stadium Series game. It's a regional rivalry, given the distance between the two teams. I don't think that Nashville is any closer. They may be further. I've never checked it on a map, so I don't know. I may be talking out of my ear here, but it makes sense. Let's also not forget that this is a national TV game. The Carolina Hurricanes, even though this is the 25th season, and they do have a Stanley Cup championship, they're not a household name across the country. And Ray, you were talking about it earlier. Why are they not getting that kind of respect? Well, there's the national sports media is starting to pick up on the fact that, hey, this hockey team in Raleigh is pretty good, and they have been good for almost half a decade now. So so that's starting to get out there. You needed a draw, you needed a face, you needed a name. There ain't anybody better right now in the league than Alexander Ovechkin. He's trying to chase down Gretz in the all-time goal record, and I didn't think he'd get there, but now I'm not so sure. A couple of years ago, I'm like, there's no way he's going to do this. He's got to play another. Oh, he scored 45 again this year. Oh, maybe there is a chance. Yeah. So they needed a name for this series, for this game, for this national TV game, this worldwide international event, and Ovi's the guy. So I don't have a problem with them playing the Caps in this one.
It could have been, for me, it could have been anyone. This is going to be a great experience for me. And I've mentioned this before, when I asked the most excitement that I had about this game is not so much that I get to see a lot of great people that I only ever talk to online, although that's fantastic. Not so much that I get to see the Hurricanes play and I'm not surrounded by people that do not like this squad. I'm getting to watch the home. I could be in the majority instead of the minority in the stands, but because it's outdoors in a college football building, you know what I mean? And to feel that vibe, flow over into hockey, and the excitement that's been generated is great, is absolutely great. Mike, when you look at the game coming up, let's talk about the game itself. You mentioned, of course, OV's going to be a problem. I don't know why he got as high up in the goal scoring standings, because really he scores all of his goals from the same spot. Couldn't we just have someone shadow him right there on the left circle? I mean, what's going on? I don't understand it. It seems like you could just put someone in front of him to block shots, although I don't know how many people want to stand in front of his shot, let me tell you. Whew, blazing. What do you think about the game?
Oops, sorry, Ray. I think Mike had to step away for 2 seconds.
Oh,
so he'll be right back. But I was going to ask Mike the exact same question. It's funny because one of the things I'm really thankful for is that Ovi is hit over his 800 goals now. Yes. I did not want the storyline of the Stadium Series game to be, could this be Ovi's 800th?
Right.
That's what I didn't. That's one of the things I didn't want to see is, is Ovi going to hit? So now, he's at 800. He's now surpassed 800 by enough, I feel like that's not a storyline, because the storyline should be, look at the amazing thing that Carolina has put together.
Yeah.
And bringing these folks together. We've got folks that I know for sure are coming from England, Scotland, Finland, Czechia,
Netherlands,
Germany,
I think, for sure.
Netherlands, I think. So there's like 6 of people who I know like listen to the show are coming from, plus all the people. I mean, so we have people who hosted you before, Ray, when you made your last pilgrimage to Raleigh, who are the same folks I've been on message board with for 20 something years. And I've still never met some of them in person. So I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to do that. So I think this is going to turn into such a big production. As I kind of stated earlier, that this really might put the Hurricanes on the map in a way that makes sense, because it's not just going to be about the team and whether or not we have superstars and all-stars the way that, Carolina doesn't have superstars. Yeah, say that what you will. I think this might be the event that helps, because 2006 is a long time ago in sports terms, right? So in 2007, 2008, everybody knew who the Hurricanes were, even though they fell kind of right off the tracks a little bit. So I think this might be the event where, they come out and they have a solid game here. The fans are great. This Stadium Series event might be the one that makes people go, oh, that Carolina team is for real, and not just that. I mean, we're 25 years in, and some of it's just, trash talk, right? Carolina fans, blah, blah, blah. Like number one is the Hurricanes are number 2 in the league in attendance percentage. Boom. There's just no argument with that. Yeah. But this is the kind of event where if the Caniacs show up and there's 50-something thousand there, and you have all the major sports networks like Spectrum News 1 broadcasting, people tailgating from 10 a.m., parking lot opens at 2. I promise you so Mike, I believe, is a sports director over there. I promise if Mike has a truck on scene at like 10 a.m., there will be cars in that parking lot. They will find a way. There will be people tailgating before 2. 2 o'clock is an interesting start time in HL, because I don't think you can enforce it.
We're going to try to get it earlier. I can promise you that. We're going to try to get it earlier, But the thing is, we got marked vehicles, so we can actually say, hey, look, we need to get in to get set up.
Yeah.
Caniacs can't do that. I mean, really, I think they're going to you pointed out earlier about, the slow release of things and how it's been kind of a sluggish process. This is all NHL controlled. The Hurricanes really don't have any say in all of this. In fact, when we were a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to NC State saying, hey, what's going on over there? When have they contacted you about the ice or anything else, and when they're going to start to build? And my folks over there said, the NHL came in and took the keys and said, thanks, and walked away. Like, they didn't ask for any, they're in control. They've got the keys now. They've got all the keys. They're guarding all the locks. They're doing all those things. This is weeks before the ice, the refrigeration and stuff got in there. So I'm like, okay, so we just have to wait. And then we have to wait. And then we get the credential process. And, the NHL can walk and they can chew gum. They just can't do both at the same time. So that was the thing. It's like the Stadium Series stuff from our standpoint didn't start to become a thing in terms of, hey, get your credential requests in until the week of the All-Star game.
Wow.
And the All-Star game was just last weekend.
Yeah.
So, that's crazy late.
Yeah. And so, but the thing is that, and while that's frustrating for us, it also is the NHL saying, look, we've done this before. So we know get your credentials in. We'll tell you what's coming next. Just, so I've had to take the patience pill with like, God, we're planning a special here. Come on, guys. We need to know what's going on. Where can we go? This, that, or the other. Like, it's coming. So, you just kind of have to play their game along their timeline.
I say all the time, best sport, worst league. Because I like watching PHF hockey when I get a chance. I love watching AHL hockey. I love watching college hockey. Being in Boston, bean pots going on.
I have to go to a bean pot, by the way. I have to go see that one of these.
It's so much fun.
It's a bucket list thing for me, and it has been since I heard about it.
If you let me know when you're coming up, I'll go with you. I'll be happy to take you.
Deal.
I wonder, in part of the issue, I think NHL. So Marty Necas trends on Twitter. He's one of the top 3 things on Twitter that trends for the All-Star vote. Doesn't get to go. And Hurricanes fans are, I think, rightfully upset. I don't really believe that the NHL is rigging things, but I also don't know because I don't trust the NHL to do the right thing necessarily, personally. But I feel like transparency in the NHL is part of the issue. It's if they just came out, so the Stadium Series jerseys are basically the same as the ones that were leaked for 2 years ago. So why weren't they available till the week before the All-Star game? That doesn't make sense to me. Had they come out and said, oh, there's a reason, or this is why we're doing it, or this is, does that make sense? As a fan, you want to be treated like you're not an idiot. And the NHL tends to treat its fans like we're dumb and that we're just going to show up and pay money and keep going. And in some ways we do, right? Because I'm going to the game. I have my jerseys. But it feels like a little bit of transparency from the league would go a long way with the fans, because they used to be kind of the solid, fourth sport, right? Football, basketball, baseball rule the roost, and then there's hockey, and then there's everything else. And MLS soccer is creeping up. And, baseball's kind of been trended down. It feels like I can't watch Red Sox games anymore. They're just too long. And hockey has an opportunity to grow and to cash in and to make money for the owners and improve the league. And it feels like they don't. And I don't get it. And a lot of that for me as the fan is I just want to be treated like you care that I'm investing my time and I have a podcast and I spend money on ESPN Plus and I do all these things to watch the games. So don't make it harder for me to watch games and don't not give me info. Just tell me Stadium Series jerseys won't be out until mid-January. The tickets won't be available till this time. It feels like the league could do a lot of little things that would make it an overall better experience for everyone. And I don't understand why they don't.
It's like I said, it's the walking and chewing gum. This doesn't work. So let's just walk. Yeah. Stop and chew the gum, walk, stop and chew the gum, that sort of thing. There is also the idea, though, and the world, as you know, has changed drastically with the invent of social media, and we're a gotta have it now society. And the fact that the NHL held back on these jersey releases until such and such time. The reason they held those back, and I'm just going to cite this because on the day that I purchased that Sebastian Aho sweater that you're wearing, Ray, it's in my closet, nice. Is also the same day that all of the Jordan Staal jerseys sold out. They released them all at the same time. Look, here it is. Flood the servers so everybody can buy them. It's the bang moment. It's the it's here, I got to go get it now. And that's, when you get stuff that's, it's the need to be trending. It's the need to be, it's the need to be the hot thing. It's the need to be viral on social media. I think that's the big component of it. And the NHL would say, well, look, we released these jerseys. They sold out in 2 hours. What more do you want us to do? Well, to your point, if they would have gone and released it 6 months ago, they'd have sold out in 2 hours. Then they could have restocked and continued to sell them all the way up.
More.
So their point is, hey, we're the Flash, but your point is be the Flash and continue to shine. And continue to shine instead of just flaring out. And so I see both sides of the argument, but the NHL, and that's the thing though, is that's I think the world that we live in is we got to have it now, and when we get it now, everybody's excited, and then it goes away. We're on to the next thing, and that's it's a matter of just not being able to when you got the attention span of a gnat, it's just people don't pay attention to things that much, and they just don't, and it's unfortunate.
Brad, I know we've got to get you ready to go here. I don't want to keep you any longer because you got packing to do and getting ready to do that big trip. But I do have I got a question.
Which jerseys are coming?
There you go. I do too, man. I'm like,
I was told I can't bring a dozen.
Yeah, I could probably bring that many. I'm worried about the jerseys and the hats. Like this one's coming with me, but I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to wear them. It's a long story. We'll have to talk about later. But Mike, I gotta ask you, as far as this whole week that's coming up, is it full-time work schedule for you? You've got a lot of things on the go. I'm sure Spectrum One is got a lot of things on the go. How much of this allows you to be fanboy like us, and how much of it is work. Spectrum One have anything special going on? I want to let you promote yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. We are doing a special on game day. We're doing a half-hour special starting at 6 o'clock Eastern. And in that special, we're going to basically put together we're putting together stories on the rink build and how they're putting ice inside of a football stadium, and it was fan stuff. We got a fan that learned how to sew during the pandemic, and now he's making custom jerseys, not necessarily Hurricanes jerseys, but like Franken jerseys.
Wow.
And
Cool.
and he's busy. He's doing stuff that's unique, and he's busy doing it. So we got that. You're coming in from Brad. You're coming in from Boston. Ray, you're coming in from Calgary. I'm actually meeting up with fans that are coming in from Scotland and Finland for this game. So
Yeah.
So meeting up with those guys. I don't know if we're meeting up with the same person, but
Paul Austin is on my list from Scotland.
I'm
Lene and Kertu from Finland. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm catching up with Paul when he arrives at RDU. I'm turning a story on him. And
Paul was a guest on our show, is a wonderful person, and we're going out to dinner on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to meet him when he gets in on Wednesday, so that'll be cool. And then I'm going to do Wednesday morning. I'm doing a sit down with Lyle Wildgoose, Jimmy Powers, and Brad Malahy from the IceCaps as the forefathers. That's going to be a segment.
That's right.
That's going to be a segment on our show on Friday night. So that's the Chevrolet Sportsnet at 10:30 Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And then we're calling it Taking It Outside, the Stadium Series. That's our special at 6 o'clock on Saturday, game day, the 18th. So I'll be out there for that. There will be. I am going to find some time I've got to find time with Paul because he and I played in those alumni games together. So we've known each other for a bunch of years.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I knew Paul played. I didn't realize you played the same alumni game.
Oh yeah, I played in a couple of them, and I met Paul, and in fact, before the pandemic, the wife and I made a trip to Vegas to celebrate our 50th birthdays, and Paul made the same trip. He was in Vegas that week for the Hurricanes and Golden Knights.
Wow.
And so we're all the same. I mean, it was just weird. And I didn't know idea he was coming.
That's so cool.
So I was like, oh my God, you're in Vegas? Yeah, we're staying up here. Come on up. We came up to the casino. We had a couple pops, and so we got to make time to connect this week. But it's going to be great seeing the IceCaps guys again, and of course I still have so many friends within the Hurricanes organization that seeing Mike Sondheim with in media relations, and Mike Brown, and the boys. So seeing some of the guys that Netchie. I covered Netchie when he played for the Checkers when they won the Calder Cup down here in Charlotte in 19. He was a part of that group. So I remember Marty playing down here. Brock McGinn was a guy that was here with Checkers, and now he's obviously moved on. But Zach Dalpy's back in Charlotte. He used to play with the Hurricanes. He was in the organization. Now Riley Nash is down in Charlotte now, so another former Hurricane that's playing here. So in Charlotte. So it's the great thing about the hockey community is that you're never too far away from family. And that's the beauty of the Stadium Series game for me anyway, from a personal standpoint, is that I'm going to reconnect with so many people that I've gotten to know over the course of my time in the game, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to being up there, seeing Mike Maniscalco and Trip Tracy and the crew, the Bally's crew. So I mean, it's I'm going to be at the game Thursday for the Montreal game for Cam Ward's induction Hall of Fame induction night. So I mean, it's going to be a busy week, but I will find time to squeeze in just a little bit of fun.
Well, we've got and we're planning a few things ourselves when we're going to be doing a bunch of recording, and we're kind of piecemeal podcast together about the events, throughout the week. Brad and I kind of have a few ideas, things that we want to do. I want to track you down. Okay. Because totally, we would love to have you on again, especially this. And Brad, I'm sorry, one more question, and I'm putting you to the test, Mike. You're a professional, so I know you'll be able to knock this one out right away.
Oh dear,
here it comes. So earlier this week on our site, I wrote a blog about the time is it when does push come to shove, and this is what I'm asking you. Is it time for Waddell to make the deal for that one or two big guys? And should it be a rental, or should he be open to being a rental? And I'll throw that out there. I had to get a little bit of the excitement of the team in a trade. I got to do it all. Brad, I make Brad nuts when I throw these things out there, but here it is. What do you think?
Well, first off, I totally understand that. I mean, you're in Calgary, so the weeks leading up to the trade deadline are like an advent calendar.
Oh
so
my gosh,
I totally,
no
it's
kidding.
like, oh, on this day I get it. I get this. And then
Yeah.
you open a door and there's Nick Alberga saying, "Someone make a trade."
Exactly.
And I love Nicky. I'm of two different schools of thought here. Okay, when it comes to the deadline and what the Hurricanes should do, I would love a long 7-year value at 56 if he'd go for it for Dylan Larkin. If you're able to land Dylan Larkin and you say, we're giving you 56 over 7, come to Carolina and stick around.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Guy's 25, 26 years old, got a long career ahead of him. He's a captain of the Wings. He's an outstanding player. I mean, he's an all-star for God's sakes. I mean,
he is.
He's unfortunately he's been the valedictorian of summer school for the Wings because they've been so bad of late. But he's a guy that I think you can slot him in there and bang, your questions about a number 2 center are gone. Okay.
Yep.
Prying him away from Detroit is going to be the problem. Stevie Yzerman loves Dylan Larkin. He's not going to want him to go. He's not going to even. I don't think he wants him to go away as a rental. To finish a season here, come back to Detroit after that. I don't think he wants to do that. So I think that's pie in the sky. Is it Timo Meier? Is it a guy like Ken? I'm going to say this. I think that Waddell's going to do something. Okay. I don't think you need it on the back end. I think their 60 are more than serviceable. With Dylan Coghlan as a 7th, he stepped in and played some big minutes while Slavin was out, and proved he could get the job done. The game against the Rangers was not the best night for Pesce and Shea. They both had their struggles against New York, but again, it's their first game out of a 9-day layoff. The win streak's over. That stinks. Okay, just move on. We got the Caps next.
Start another one.
Yeah, exactly. Start another one. I think if the Hurricanes are going to do anything, I think they're going to add a guy that is going to help on the power play. They may not be a top 6 in their current structure, but it's a guy that you can plug in to give you some goal scoring on the power play because that's what Pacioretty was going to be. Max was going to be that guy that they could throw out there, big body, work in a power play, score his hands. I mean, the guy had a nose for the net, and it's unfortunate that the Achilles was such a problem this year for him. But I think that at the end of the day, Waddell is going to make a move. I just don't want him to give away too much of the future to make that deal. But I think he's going to do something. And I don't know what I honestly don't know what that something is going to be. I'd love to give you insight on that, but I'm not as connected as the Pierre LeBruns and the Elliot Friedmans of the world.
Sure.
Those guys have. I watched Friedman's 32 Thoughts at intermission of the Columbus Toronto game last night just to see if he would make any mention of Carolina being involved in anything, and never mentioned it once. He didn't say the Hurricanes once. They went through the Canadian teams and said, "Well, Philly might have interest, or this jersey, yada 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 yada." So I think the Tarasenko trade to the Rangers kind of opens the door for the Metro, but the Timo Meier domino might be the one that really sets things going, if it even falls. And if Meier goes anywhere, the arms race is going to escalate in the Metro, because the Metro is one of the best divisions in the league right now. It really, really is. With the way you've got, and I know Boston's way out there. I know that they got up to the great start and they just keep winning. But I think when you look at, you've got the Rangers, the Devils, and the Hurricanes that are separated by 6 points or less. At the top 3 spots, yeah. The top 3 spots as we sit today. We have an arms race now in that division because of the Tarasenko deal. So I think that the Hurricanes, I don't think they can stand pat. I think they've got to do something to try to improve. I just don't know where it is, because I love their top 6.
Yeah.
And with Stahl, Martinook, and Foss doing what they do, I mean, that is just a grinder's delight to watch those three go to work.
Yeah.
And they do they're so good at their job and what their role is. And then and then last night, the fourth line, Stepan,
Nason
and
Stastny.
Paul Stastny. They had a number of great shifts last night. So
yes, they sure did.
I can see the Hurricanes doing something. In fact, I expect them to do something, and I will be shocked if they don't make a deal to try to improve the club. But there's, they might be a piece away. And as I said to Mike Maniscalco on Friday, the experts could be wrong. They may have all the pieces right now that they need. I think
been firmly in the Meyer camp.
Yeah, I think a deal's coming. I don't know who it's going to be, when it's going to be, and I don't necessarily know that they need it. But the one thing I do know about that room, with Rod Brindamore driving the bus, that room will absorb and welcome and acclimate whoever comes in quickly. That whoever they bring in, a new face, they will be welcomed into the mix very quickly, and they won't miss a beat. So, like I say, I don't know who's coming. I don't know when the deal might happen, but if it does happen, it will not take long for them to get that person acclimated.
I would love for it to be Larkin, since he's a center. I've been in the Meyer camp because I feel like that's a little, might be a little more doable. But the big thing with Meyer is the two teams that seem to be leading that discussion are the Devils and the Hurricanes. And if the Devils get Timo Meyer and you stand pat, oh boy, that's, even with the room you have, that's adding, not just scoring prowess, but also some physicality and a guy who's willing to go in the corners too. So, that's part of the deal, right? Sometimes is you want to get a guy in part so that somebody else in your division does it, because the Metro is easily the best team in the best conference in the league. I mean,
yeah, I think the Metro division is just outstanding. But so let's just say the Devils go and get Timo Meyer. Let's say that Meyer goes to New Jersey. Do you then go to a plan B and pick up a guy that can score, but is long in the tooth? If the Hurricanes were able to land Patrick Kane, how would you feel about that?
I don't want Patrick Kane because of the Kyle Beach incident.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not even a hockey decision for me.
Yeah.
But I'm not Don Waddell, right? So for me, it's all about cost. You don't mortgage the future, but and I know people like Jarvis is one of the things that keeps coming up in the discussion. I would hate to lose Jarvis. That is an amazing kid. But if he gets you potentially a cup, if he gets you a chance, if you get your foot in the door to the Stanley Cup Finals, we did the other day, about a third of the teams in the league have never won a Stanley Cup, including places that have been around for more than 50 years, Vancouver, Buffalo, Winnipeg. I'm looking at those cities. So the fact that Hurricanes have one in such a short period of time, I think people it feels like ancient history to me at this point, but people need to remember, like, these kinds of windows don't come around very often. And even when they do, like the Hurricanes window this year, you can look at the Rangers and you can look at the Devils, and there are other teams whose windows are also, open a little sooner than you kind of expected. So you kind of got to shoot your shot sometime, right? So it's
a strike while the iron's hot kind of deal.
I trust Don Waddell. I will say that Don Waddell is a funny guy, because Don Waddell will say, I'm going to go do X, Y, Z. And everybody's like, oh, he's just, that's posturing for the media and whatever. And then he goes out and he does X, Y, Z, exactly what he said he was going to do. So
we went into last season with no goaltenders. And honestly,
when you mentioned Steve Yzerman not giving up Larkin, I'm like, didn't we give him a gift? Didn't we give him?
Yeah, we kind of
a freebie.
We
didn't work out. I feel bad it didn't work out.
Wait, I would say which freebie was that? Alex Nedeljkovic?
Yeah,
because last I saw, he's been waived a number.
I know. I'm just.
So, I mean,
Steve's comment when asked, he was like, he was asked, well, why do you think Carolina gave up, I can't even say Ned's name anymore.
Yeah, Nedeljkovic.
Why did you give up Ned? And Steve was kind of like, I don't know. They must be, they must be crazy. But I'm happy to have him. And of course, it didn't turn out. I feel terrible for Ned, but
yeah. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, hold on. I mean, I had to hold. I'm going to interrupt you here because we're talking about trades here.
Oh, okay.
And I have to
I have Kevin Weeks on alert. I hope I don't see a Weeks.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I'm trying to figure out here. Okay, so we talked about general managers and Don Waddell. All right.
Yeah.
So in 2001, 2002. Okay, and this is just a quick story I'll leave you guys with. Getting how I don't question NHL general managers. Okay, 2001, 2002, Hurricanes GM is a guy named Jim Rutherford.
Yeah.
Okay, savvy veteran. He's won the Executive of the Year several times. He made a trade with the Florida Panthers, and I had to look at the specifics of this because I'm going to take you back. Byron Ritchie and Sandis Ozolinsh to the Panthers for Brett Hedican, Kevin Adams, Tomas Malic, and a draft pick. Okay, that was the deal. I loved Sandis Ozolinsh. Loved him as a player. Loved him when he was in Colorado. Thought the world of him. Puck moving, offensive defenseman, power play quarterback. Just didn't work out in Carolina. They deal him for Hedican and Adams and this kid Mallets and whatever. And I'm on the radio the day the deal comes down. And I'm giving it to Rutherford. Just giving it to him. I mean, how can you take this guy in the 2002 season, you know, where they're showing promise? This is a guy you can build around. You can build your power play and go into the next season and all the things that you want to be able to do. This guy's a linchpin on your back end, and you throw away, you know, I mean, Byron Ritchie, all right, I get it. You know, he's a piece, but I mean, Hedican's, you know, he's seen his best days. Kevin Adams, I mean, we're talking about a fourth line guy here. We're not talking about a prominent scorer. You didn't get anything with this deal. Jimmy Rutherford, I just want to know what you're drinking today. I mean, how you gotta be just tuned up to make this deal. I don't like it. Blah, 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 blah. Let's fast forward now to the Hurricanes playing in the Stanley Cup final, losing to Detroit, but winning the Eastern Conference, getting to the final. And it's a hell of a run. I mean, it's just what a second half. It was just great. It's the summertime, and I'm at the Jimmy V Celebrity Golf weekend. And Friday is the pairings party, Saturday is the practice round, Sunday is the actual Jimmy V. Beautiful Prestonwood Country Club in Cary. It's a wonderful layout. It was a great event. I played it 3 times. I loved every minute of it. Friday is the pairings party, and we're all at an establishment, and they're putting up, you know, all the celebrities are in town, all the players that are in this are in town, and they're all just mingling, and it's an open bar, and everybody's having a good time. And I'm standing there, and I'm talking with Jeff O'Neill, and I'm talking with, you know, a bunch of other people. And here comes Rutherford. Season's over. They lost the Stanley Cup final to Detroit. Rutherford rolls over. I say, "Hey, Jimmy, how are you? Good to see you again." He says, I'm good. Making small talk. And he's about to walk away, and he says, I gotta go over here. He says, "But Mike, by the way, it was Bud Light." And he clinked my beer bottle and walked off. And I was like, "It was Bud." Oh my God. And it was because Brett Hedican worked out quite nicely.
He sure
Evan
did,
Adams worked out quite nicely. Played the Stanley Cup with a fractured wrist. He played the final against Edmonton, or actually, it worked out nicely in 06, I should say. But they won the Eastern Conference, and those guys were linchpin builders to, you know. So it's never a good idea, one, to question Jim Rutherford.
Yeah,
but it's really never a good idea when you know you're going to see him again, and when he's right, he's going to have the last word.
Oh, yeah.
He had the last word.
And that trade brought my all-time favorite Hurricane in Kevin Adams. Kevin Adams is my guy. I absolutely loved him coming.
I want to see him succeed in Buffalo as a GM now. I want to see him turn.
I do too. I was worried. Last year. I'm not going to lie, but this year, I mean, what a breakout year for them. I mean, regardless of what else happens, they've had a phenomenal. You know, Tage Thompson's been unbelievable. But it's noon. We would love to have you back on. I think I speak for Ray at some point in the future if you would like to come back. But thank you so much for joining us. This has been phenomenal. I think this is going to be. We're definitely going to have this, you know, going on this week. You know, playing for the Stadium Series of parking lot. We will. Ray and I both have tickets to the Hall of Fame game and the Stadium Series. We'd love to connect with you, even if you just say hi for a minute.
Absolutely.
tell Lyle Wildgoose, Brad, the guy you gave the jersey to, said hi. Paul Lawson, if you will see him before me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Brad says hi. He'll see you in a couple of days. He texted me last night to make sure that I was going to be in town, for the whole time. So
Excellent.
And Mike,
I appreciate you
people...
taking our call, basically, too. Just getting back. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely.
It has been. And Mike, how do people, aside from finding you on Spectrum One, how else can people follow you? Because you've graced us with all of this. This has been my personal favorite right now. And maybe it's because I've been in the industry too, and I'm hearing it from someone who's lived a dream that I wanted for so much. I gotta, let's hear it from you. How do people follow you? Because you got some great stuff to share with everyone.
Well, I appreciate that very much. You guys are far too kind. Best way to keep track of everything that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it's with the Hurricanes or the Panthers or the NBA, whatever, just check out the Twitter handle at Mike Solarte. Just like I say it, because the pronunciations I've gotten over the years on my last name are just, how do you get solitaire out of Solarte? How do you make the jump to add the I and flip stuff around and it's solitaire all the time? Okay, whatever. It's Solarte, Solarte. And give us a follow and ask away questions. I've always prided myself since joining that crazy website that if someone has taken the time to write out a legitimate question about sports, it's definitely no problem for me to write back. If you think that much of my opinion, then I feel I should give it to you, and that's fine. So I try to stay as interactive as possible, as positive as possible. I hate the negativity. I hate I'm not a hot take guy. That's not, I love to have a lot of fun. So I try to keep it light, professional, but definitely not light on the professional. If anybody got a question, I will definitely give you my best answer that I can. And hey, we're just having fun. I look at Twitter as just a virtual sports bar, where the only thing missing is having a pop. So, and on some days, I might even have them when I'm responding to you. So you never know.
There you go. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Brad, drive safe, man. I can't wait to see you. And Wednesday, the party begins. And the party's already started for me. I'm so jacked up for this next coming week. It's going to be so great.
Ray, hold on a second. I got a question for you. You're flying out of Canada. Is it like a 3-beer minimum before you board from Calgary?
This is gonna frighten you. You are talking to possibly the only Canadian who doesn't enjoy beer.
Oh wow! So
yeah, I'm not a beer drinker, but
what
now
do you do?
Are
you a dram guy?
No, the flights and stuff are great. I'm too excited, right? Like I'm wired for sound, getting on the plane, going through everything, customs and stuff. I'm going to be just wired for sound the whole way. And if I'm going to have a wobbly pop or whatever, if that's the way you want to call it, there's usually a rye.
Okay.
Somewhere.
I would say,
what I mean?
We'll hook you up with Paul Lawson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's ticked at me. I put ice. So. He's ticked at me. My pictures, the toasts that I do for the games and stuff. He doesn't like that I put ice in my my shot that I have there when I'm saluting the team and stuff. He looked at that was his first response. He saw that picture with ice in there, and he's like, "What are you doing? You're desecrating the drink."
I'm making it colder. That's all I'm doing. I'm making it colder. That's all it is.
If Green Shields is still around, I'll take a root beer. Does that count?
Oh my god! Nah, I don't think.
I bet they're gone. But
yeah,
for newer folks, Green Shields used to be a place downtown that they made their own root beer on site. Which
they made their own beer on site. They made their own beer on site.
Nice. Not a jigger.
Yeah, in '95, that was in fact my agent who got me the job in Raleigh. Was our weather guy at the station I worked at. So we suspended our agreement when I started working there. And the first place he took me was to Green Shields, and I had the most amazing stout that they had.
So good.
It was a microbrew. And then
There
it was
you
gone.
go.
Then it was
Good memories.
gone. And it was like,
Ah.
oh, Green Shield is gone. Bummer. Oh.
I'm old enough now. I live in the past a lot. That's probably
There you go.
a little sad, but it's
You know
funny
what?
for other people.
It
Hopefully,
was, but the thing is, though, is that the past was really, really good, wasn't it? I
Wasn't
mean,
it? It
It
was.
was so good.
those late '90s, early 2000s Kane years, even when they weren't necessarily winning, were my favorite hockey times. I mean,
Oh.
even driving from NC State to Greensboro to go to games, getting barbecue for the games. There's 8,000 people in Green Acres, and the upper deck is blacked out.
Yeah.
I loved every second of it. I really did.
It was outstanding. I was able to get great seats whenever I wanted to in Greensboro, and watching those teams play. I mean, that was, Ronnie Francis. I saw Ronnie Francis wrench his ankle up there, and everybody was like, "Oh no!" And that cost them in that playoff series because he was out and they got beat because he did major damage to his ankle. It wasn't a high ankle sprain like was reported; it was worse. But he wanted to go. He just couldn't do it. So and that really hurt them in that playoff series that year. But there's a long, rich history of this team, and I've been very lucky to have been a part of watching it all unfold over 25 seasons. And I'm really, really looking forward to the Stadium Series game on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Mike. This has been a fantastic show. Brad, we've covered everything. We've closed out the show 3 times because that's just what we do. I mean, this is fantastic. We've covered everything. We've got some great history. We've talked about the Stadium Series. We even got a trade thing in. There's something missing though, and for the life of me, I don't. What is missing, Brad? Yeah,
Go Canes!
Go Canes!
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us by email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.